I am marrying Jake. We are done. My girlfriend ended our wedding 6 weeks before the big day for her soulmate from Nashville. She had no idea the call from Denver would turn my ruined wedding day into the best escape of my life. I am Trevor, 30, 2M operations manager here in Atlanta. Been with my girlfriend Madison, 29F, for 3 years, engaged for 8 months. Weddings planned for 6 weeks from now, the 15th of October at the Biltmore Ballroom, 150 guests, honeymoon in Tuscany, the whole 9 yards. Everything was perfect. Or at least I thought it was. This weekend was Madison's bachelorette party in Nashville with her college girlfriends. I stayed home to handle some last-minute wedding stuff, confirm the catering numbers, pick up my groomsmen's gifts, coordinate with the photographer about timeline, responsible groom things. Friday night she texted me from some honky-tonk on Broadway. Looked like they were having a blast. Saturday I got a few selfies from their hotel. Sunday morning a group shot before they headed home. Normal bachelorette weekend stuff. Madison got back to our place around 8 p.m. Sunday night. I was in the living room going through RSVPs. We still had about 20 people who hadn't responded, and the caterer needed final numbers by Tuesday. She walked in carrying her weekend bag, looked at me sitting there with wedding paperwork, spread all over the coffee table, and just stopped, like she was seeing something that surprised her. "How was Nashville?" I asked. "You guys have fun?" She set down her bag and sat on the couch across from me. Not next to me like she normally would. Across from me like we were about to have a business meeting. "Trevor, we need to talk." In 3 years together, she had never started a conversation that way. "I met someone this weekend," she said. "Someone from college. Jake Morrison. We reconnected." I didn't understand what she was getting at. "Okay, old friends are fun to catch up with." "No, Trevor, we reconnected." And I realized something important. She took a deep breath. "I am marrying Jake. We are done." I just stared at her. "What?" "The wedding's off. I am sorry, but I cannot marry you. I am going to marry Jake instead." I looked down at all the paperwork in front of me. Guest lists, vendor contracts, seating charts, timeline schedules. 6 weeks of intensive planning for an event that apparently wasn't happening anymore. "Madison, what are you talking about? You met some guy in Nashville and decided to marry him instead of me." "It is not some guy. It is Jake. We dated in college, and seeing him again made me realize I never got over him. What we have, it is comfortable, Trevor. But it is not passionate. It is not real love. Real love. After 3 years of building a life together, apparently what we had wasn't real love. So you are calling off our wedding because you ran into an ex-boyfriend at a bar." "I am calling off our wedding because I realized I was about to marry the wrong person." The casual way she said it, like she was changing dinner reservations, not destroying 3 years of relationship and 6 months of wedding planning. "What about the deposits, Madison, the venue, the caterer, the photographer? We have put down $15,000. I know this is inconvenient. Madison, we have 150 people flying in from all over the country. My parents already booked their hotel. Your dress is hanging in our closet. The invitations went out 2 months ago. I will help you cancel everything. I know it is a lot to deal with. Help me cancel everything." Like she was doing me a favor. "And what about us? What about our apartment, our plans, everything we have built together? I will move out this week. Jake lives in Denver now, and I think I need to see where this goes." I stood up and started pacing. "You are moving to Denver, Madison? You met this guy 2 days ago." "I didn't meet him 2 days ago. I have known Jake since college. We just found each other again." She kept talking like this was some romantic movie moment instead of her destroying my life with no warning. Sometimes the universe gives you a second chance with your soulmate, Trevor. I cannot ignore that. Your soulmate, not me, after 3 years. Some guy she hadn't seen since college. I asked her when exactly she had made this decision. Was it Saturday night? Sunday morning? When did 3 years of relationship and 6 weeks of wedding planning become meaningless? When I saw Jake Friday night, I knew immediately. I tried to fight it all weekend, but by Sunday morning I realized I couldn't go through with marrying you when my heart belongs to someone else. So she had spent the entire weekend knowing she was going to destroy our relationship, and I had spent it picking up groomsmen's gifts and confirming catering numbers. She packed 2 suitcases that night and went to stay at her friend Ashley's place. Said she would come back during the week to get the rest of her stuff when I wasn't home. Left me sitting in our apartment, surrounded by wedding planning materials for a wedding that was never going to happen. My best friend Caleb came over Monday night with beer and helped me start making the cancellation calls. Venue, caterer, photographer, DJ florist. Each conversation was the same. I am sorry, but we need to cancel our the 15th of October wedding. Some of the vendors were understanding. Others, not so much. Turns out bride met her soulmate at a bachelorette party isn't covered under force majeure clauses. I keep thinking this has to be some kind of breakdown or crisis. You don't just throw away 3 years because you run into an ex-boyfriend, right? People don't actually do that in real life, do they? But every time I have tried calling Madison to talk this through rationally, she just keeps saying she has never been more certain of anything in her life. Has anyone else dealt with something like this? Where someone you thought you knew completely just becomes a different person overnight? I don't even know where to start putting my life back together. Update 1: after Madison moved out, I couldn't stop thinking about this Jake guy. She had never mentioned anyone named Jake from college, never talked about some great lost love she was pining for. In 3 years together, she would never once indicated that what we had was somehow insufficient. So I did some digging. Started with her college yearbooks that were still in our apartment. Found him pretty quickly. Jake Morrison, business major, same graduation year as Madison, good-looking guy, but nothing that screamed soulmate to me. Facebook investigation revealed more. Jake's recently divorced. Decree finalized just 4 months ago. He is a real estate developer in Denver, does pretty well for himself based on his lifestyle photos. Typical divorced guy posting gym selfies and expensive vacation pictures. But here is where it gets interesting. I called Madison's friend Ashley, the one she is staying with, and asked her straight up what happened in Nashville. Trevor, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but it wasn't just some coincidental meeting. Turns out Jake was at that Nashville bar because Madison had posted on Instagram that she was having her bachelorette party there. He saw the post, drove down from Atlanta where he was visiting family, and showed up specifically to see her. He had been following her social media for months, Ashley said, waiting for the right opportunity. What do you mean, the right opportunity? To get her back. He told all of us that night that Madison was the one who got away, and he had regretted not fighting for her after college. So this wasn't some romantic reunion. It was a calculated move by a recently divorced guy targeting a woman 6 weeks before her wedding. But it gets worse. Ashley told me that Madison had been receptive to Jake's attention all weekend. She kept saying how different he was from college, how successful he would become, how mature he was now. And you guys just let her blow up her engagement? Trevor. We tried to talk sense into her, but she kept saying that seeing Jake made her realize she had been settling for security instead of following her heart. Settling for security. After 3 years of what I thought was love, apparently I was just the safe option. Did she mention anything about being unhappy with Trevor before this weekend? I asked. Long pause. Not unhappy exactly. But she did say sometimes that you were very practical, that you planned everything out, and didn't leave much room for spontaneity. Practical. Like that was a character flaw instead of the reason we had a beautiful apartment, stable finances, and a wedding planned with military precision. After I hung up with Ashley, I called my buddy Mike, who works in real estate in Denver. Asked him if he knew anything about Jake Morrison. Morrison? Yeah, I know him. Good developer, but kind of a shark. His ex-wife said he was a serial cheater who couldn't commit to anything long-term. He just convinced my girlfriend to leave me for him. Jesus, Trevor. I am sorry, man, but honestly, if she is the type to blow up her engagement for a guy she just met, Morrison might be doing you a favor. He goes through women like they are business deals. That is when it hit me. Madison didn't leave me for her soulmate. She left me for a predator who targeted her specifically because she was vulnerable and about to get married. The financial damage is becoming clearer too. We are losing about $8,000 in non-refundable deposits. The venue is keeping the full $4,500 because we are inside their 6-week cancellation window. The caterer is keeping $2,000. Photographer is keeping $1,500. My parents offered to help cover the losses, which made me feel even worse. They had already spent $3,000 on flights and hotels for a wedding that is not happening. But the vendors' reactions have been interesting. When I called to cancel the flowers, the owner of the shop asked why. My girlfriend met someone at her bachelorette party and decided to marry him instead, 6 weeks before your wedding, after you have already paid deposits. Yep, honey, you dodged a bullet. Anyone who would do that to someone they supposedly love, that is not someone you want to be married to. The DJ said something similar. In 20 years of doing weddings, I have seen maybe 3 or 4 brides call things off this close to the date. Every single time, the groom ended up thanking me later for the bullet they dodged. I am starting to think they might be right. If Madison could throw away 3 years because some smooth-talking developer showed her attention for a weekend, what would she have done when marriage got difficult? When we had financial stress or health problems or any of the normal challenges that couples face? Would she have left me for the next exciting option that came along? Still hurts like hell though. 3 years of thinking I knew someone, only to find out I was just a placeholder until something better showed up. Update 2: Madison wants the engagement ring back, says it belongs to her since we were engaged. So found out this whole thing was way more premeditated than she let on. First, the ring situation. Madison texted me Tuesday asking when she could come by to get her ring. Not the ring or her engagement ring. Her ring like it was always hers and I was just holding it temporarily. For context, it is a $6,500 ring that I saved for 8 months to buy. Custom designed, white gold with a 1.5-carat diamond. I proposed with it 14 months ago at her favorite restaurant. I texted back that we needed to talk about that in person. She came by Wednesday evening to pick up more of her stuff, and I brought up the ring. I would like to keep it, I said, at least until I figure out if I can return it. Trevor, that ring was given to me as a symbol of our engagement. Just because the engagement is over doesn't mean the ring stops being mine. Actually, under Georgia law, an engagement ring is considered a conditional gift. If the engagement is broken by the recipient, the ring goes back to the giver. I had looked this up after she texted me. Turns out, engagement rings are basically considered contracts. If you don't follow through on your end of the deal, you don't get to keep the ring. She was not happy about this. You are really going to be petty about a piece of jewelry, Madison. You broke our engagement to marry someone you met at a bar. I am out $8,000 in wedding deposits. The ring is the only thing of value I might be able to recover. Fine, whatever. Keep your precious ring. But then she said something that made my blood run cold. It is not like I will need it anyway. Jake's already looking at rings. For a woman he reconnected with 2 weeks ago. After she left, I couldn't stop thinking about that comment. Who looks at engagement rings after dating someone for 2 weeks, unless? So I did more investigating. Called Madison's friend Laura, who was also on the Nashville trip but hadn't been as tight-lipped as Ashley. Laura, can I ask you something? How long has Madison been in contact with Jake? In contact? What do you mean? I mean, when did they start talking again before Nashville? Long pause. Trevor, maybe you should ask Madison about this. I am asking you, please. Look, I probably shouldn't say anything, but they had been messaging on Instagram for a couple months before Nashville. A couple months, while she was planning our wedding, she had been messaging her ex-boyfriend. What kind of messages? I don't know exactly, but she mentioned that he had reached out after his divorce was finalized, and they had been catching up. His divorce was finalized 4 months ago. He reached out to my engaged girlfriend immediately after becoming single. Laura, did Madison seem surprised to see Jake in Nashville, or was it planned? Another long pause. She might have mentioned that he said he would be in Nashville that weekend. Might have mentioned. So Madison knew Jake was going to be in Nashville when she planned her bachelorette party there. I hung up and immediately called my lawyer friend David to ask about the timeline. If Madison had been planning this for months, could that affect the wedding cancellation costs? Probably not legally, David said. But Trevor, if she was having an emotional affair while planning your wedding, that tells you everything you need to know about her character. But there was more. I decided to do a deep dive on Madison's recent activity, just to see if there were other signs I had missed. Checked her LinkedIn. She had been applying for marketing jobs in Denver for the past 6 weeks. 6 weeks she had been planning her escape before she ever went to Nashville. I called her company's HR department and asked about her employment status. Miss Cole gave her 2 weeks' notice last Friday, they told me. Her last day is the 14th of October. The 14th of October, the day before our wedding. She had planned everything perfectly. Quit her job to end the day before our wedding. Went to Nashville knowing Jake would be there. Came home and delivered her "I am marrying Jake" bombshell, and probably had a job lined up in Denver all along. This wasn't a spontaneous romantic reunion. This was a calculated exit strategy that she had been planning for months. While I was picking out groomsmen's gifts and confirming vendor details, she was orchestrating her escape plan. The worst part, she let me keep paying wedding deposits and making arrangements right up until the last possible moment. If she had told me 2 months ago that she was having doubts, we could have saved thousands of dollars and spared our families the humiliation. But no, she waited until everything was locked in and non-refundable before dropping her bomb. I texted her Thursday morning. "I know about the Denver job applications. I know you have been messaging Jake for months. I know you planned this whole thing." Her response: "I didn't plan anything. I just followed my heart when the opportunity presented itself." Followed her heart. Like destroying someone else's life is romantic instead of cruel. I am done trying to make sense of this. Someone who could plan their escape for months while letting me spend money on a wedding they knew wasn't happening isn't someone whose thought process I want to understand. The ring is staying with me. Georgia law is clear, and honestly, even if it wasn't, I had fight her on principle. She doesn't get to keep trophies from the relationship she systematically destroyed. Final update: today was supposed to be my wedding day. Instead, I spent it hiking with my best friend Caleb, and honestly, it was the best decision I could have made. The 15th of October, 2023. The day I was supposed to marry Madison at the Biltmore Ballroom in front of 150 friends and family members. Instead, I woke up at 6 a.m., made coffee, and drove out to Kennesaw Mountain with Caleb to watch the sunrise and do some trail hiking. No tuxedo, no wedding party, no nervous excitement, just 2 guys with hiking boots and water bottles, talking about life. "You good, brother?" Caleb asked, as we reached the summit. "Yeah," I said, and I meant it. For the first time in 6 weeks, I actually meant it. The past 3 weeks have been a whirlwind of information that has made me realize just how much of a bullet I dodged. First, the vendor situation. Remember how I mentioned losing $8,000 in non-refundable deposits? Well, it turns out that several of the vendors were so disgusted by Madison's behavior that they went above and beyond to help me out. The photographer, Sarah, called me 2 days after the cancellation. "I have been doing weddings for 15 years, she said. "What your girlfriend did is unforgivable. I am refunding your deposit." She didn't have to do that. Her contract clearly stated no refunds within 60 days. But she said she couldn't sleep at night knowing she had kept money from someone who had been betrayed like that. The florist did something similar. Kept half the deposit to cover costs but refunded the rest. "Honey," she said, "anyone who would do what she did doesn't deserve flowers at her next wedding." Even the DJ reached out, said he couldn't refund the deposit due to his own vendor contracts, but he would do my next event for free whenever I was ready. "Good men are hard to find," he said. "When you find someone worth celebrating, call me." The venue was the only one that kept the full deposit, which honestly was fair. They had legitimate costs and lost revenue. But here is where things get really interesting. Remember Jake Morrison, Madison's soulmate? My real estate friend Mike in Denver called me last week with an update. Apparently, Jake had been bragging around town about stealing a bride and how easy it was to break up an engagement. He was telling people at networking events that he saw Madison was engaged and decided to take her as a challenge. Mike told me. Like it was some kind of conquest. A conquest. Madison thought she was getting her soulmate, but she was just another notch on some predator's belt. But wait, it gets better. The Denver marketing job Madison thought she had lined up, turns out it was never a sure thing. She had had some interviews, but the company went with an internal candidate. Jake had apparently been telling her it was basically guaranteed to get her to move to Denver faster. Madison found this out 3 days after she moved to Denver, called Ashley crying, asking if she could come back to Atlanta and if she thought I would take her back. Ashley told her absolutely not, that she had burned every bridge and needed to live with the consequences of her choices. Then, last Tuesday, Mike called with the final update. Jake broke up with Madison after 3 weeks, told her he had gotten closure on their college relationship and was ready to move on. Madison is apparently devastated, reached out to several of her Atlanta friends asking for help, but most of them are disgusted by what she did to me. She is stuck in Denver with no job, no support system, and no boyfriend. Meanwhile, I am doing better than I have in months. The financial hit hurt, but between the vendor refunds and my parents' help, I am only out about $4,000 instead of $8,000. Still sucks, but manageable. I kept the engagement ring, had it appraised, and it is worth more than I paid for it due to diamond price increases. If I sell it, I will actually make money. Work has been going great. My boss heard about what happened and offered me a promotion to regional operations manager. More money, more responsibility, more travel. Perfect timing for someone who needs a fresh start. I have been doing therapy to process the betrayal trauma. Turns out having your girlfriend abandon you 6 weeks before the wedding for a guy she met at a bar can mess with your trust issues. Who knew? But honestly, the more distance I get from this situation, the more grateful I am that it happened. She showed me who she really was. Someone who makes major life decisions based on excitement instead of commitment. Someone who can lie to your face while planning to destroy your life. Someone who values novelty over loyalty. I spent 3 years thinking I was building a future with someone who was actually just killing time until something better came along. The hiking today was therapeutic. Caleb and I talked about everything. The relationship, the betrayal, the future. He reminded me that the right person wouldn't need to be convinced to choose me. They would choose me every day, even when things got boring or difficult. Madison wasn't your person, he said, as we watched the sunset from the mountain. She was just someone teaching you what you don't want. He is right. I don't want someone who can be talked out of loving me by a smooth-talking developer with a midlife crisis. I don't want someone who makes life-altering decisions based on weekend emotions. I don't want someone who would rather plan an escape than work through problems. I want someone who chooses partnership over passion, commitment over conquest, loyalty over novelty. Someone who wouldn't need to be stolen because they couldn't be shaken. The trash took itself out. Be grateful for the cleanup. Madison texted me yesterday asking if we could talk about everything that happened. I blocked her number. There is nothing left to discuss. Today would have been my wedding day. Instead, it was the day I fully accepted that the best wedding gift I ever received was finding out who Madison really was, before I said I do. Jake can have her, and everything that comes with dating someone who abandons commitments the moment something shinier comes along.